multiculturalism, and that's what's being celebrated here today at Queen's Park in Toronto. Since the 1960s, wave after wave of immigrants have come from across the globe, and that caused us to ask how the immigrant experience has changed. I'm going to talk to three people about that, but first, here's a little bit about each one of them.
My name is Susan Barrett. I work as a strategy manager for an advertising agency. We handle the planning, buying, and execution of media campaigns. I was born in Jamaica and I immigrated to Canada when I was 7 years old. My family chose Canada because we had other family here, and my mother thought that it was just the right place to be. She'd been here before and she just thought that it was a nice place. She saw a lot of opportunity here for us.
My name is Gautam Nath, and I work with the Environics Group as Director of Cultural Markets. I'm a newcomer to Canada. I came here in November 2008 from India. I chose Canada because I was here as a teenager, and it left a lot of good memories in my mind. My biggest fear when I came to Canada was the recession. Jobs were hard to come by, and I felt I may have to take a survival job. However, that wasn't so. I worked hard, networked, volunteered, and finally found a job in my own vocation.
My name is Dr. Ken Ng. I work as a family physician in Markham and Scarborough. I was born in Hong Kong. I came to Canada in 1965 when I was 12 years old. I was one of the few in the many the relatives that we have going to the university, having the degrees. I studied medicine in McGill. In Montreal, a lot of people speak English with an accent too. They speak French. They speak English with the French accent. And they speak Greek and Chinese with an accent. So everybody has some kind of accent. So it was an experience that was good.
The thing that I love most about Canada is probably the opportunities that it represents. I think some of the things that I've been able to do and have yet to do may not have been possible if I weren't here.
The thing I love most about being here is being here.
Hi, Dr. Yang. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Susan, thank you for coming. Nice to see you too. Gautam, have a seat, please. Hi. Thanks for coming in. Tell me your first impressions of coming to Canada. Ken, why don't you start?
Well, that was exciting. You know, I was a 12-year-old teenager just starting. My first plane ride arrived in Toronto. It was a big city with a lot of space, different from Hong Kong where everything is crushed into small places. It was beautiful in Canada. I thought that was the best thing in heaven in a way.
Susan.
My first impression was that it was very cold. I was used to it being quite warm, so I was quite shocked when I got here and realized that I needed a jacket and gloves and a hat. And I had just come off this fantastic high of being on, an airplane for the first time, so I thought that was quite exciting. One thing that really fooled me when I first got here was that the sun would shine so bright, but it would be so cold. So that was really very confusing to me, and I thought, oh, that's different.
Gautam, what was your first impression?
Yeah, well, I came from India, so when I reached here, I suddenly said, where are all the people? Because it was like, wow, right? And then I went downtown and I saw, okay, there's some kind of people there, right? And the other part that I remember really was waking up one morning and looking out of the balcony and everything was a blanket of snow. What a feeling.
Very beautiful.
That was saying, you're here, my friends.
Ken, you came more than 40 years ago. Tell me what it was like to be a Chinese boy in what was a very WASP Toronto at that time.
Basically, I was the only Chinese in the school, actually, in the class.
Was there overt racism toward you at that time?
I cannot say so. I haven't been beaten up, haven't been that way, but certainly sometimes when I walk to school, walk out of the area, I hear people calling me names, Ching Ching, and many other things and so on, snickering around. And or sometimes people say, go back to your country, type of things. That comes, but at least that part I understood. Some other parts I didn't understand.
Maybe just as well. How about you, Susan, landing in Winnipeg as an 8-year-old black girl? What was that like?
it's difficult when you come from a place where you're used to being, part of the majority, and you come to a place where you're, a minority. Then, of course, like Ken, when you're that age, kids can be a little mean. So, they say mean things, make fun of the way that you speak or your accent, and that made me feel, a little embarrassed. So lunchtime was probably not the best time, and I, soon came home and I would say to my mom, can you make me something,
Like cut out the oxtail soup.
Yeah,
We're not
like,
doing that anymore.
can you cut out the Jamaican dishes at lunchtime? Can you make me something, like make me a sandwich or something that the other kids eat? So, lunchtime was a little awkward.
How about with you, Gautam? What's your experience been like?
See, I go back to several years ago. I came here as a kid for we were here for 4 years as a teenager. And I went through the school system, the junior school, the high school, both those systems. And frankly, I didn't find any issue in settling in. Played all the games, so soccer, track and field, ice hockey.
I gather.
And I also must mention, spin the bottle. That was something that we learned
that's a
when
good
we
Canadian game.
We were
Yeah.
young teenagers. So, you can imagine what stays in your head those years. So it brought me back 30 years later.
So all three of you have seen tremendous changes in the fabric of Canada. Susan, tell me some of the profound changes that you've seen.
I think probably the most profound change that I've seen is the level of acceptance. I think, especially here in Toronto, when I first came here, it was definitely a more comfortable feeling for me because there were so many different ethnicities here. So it was very comfortable. I felt like, there's lots of different people. Isn't this great?
I saw a lot of change in different ways. Even myself have evolved over the years. Certainly, my parents then came. They are a little bit different. The Chinese have the advantage of a lot of relatives, and then they do have association fraternities in Chinatown, and that help them along, and the family can network in that aspect of it. But when you step out from the cocoon, it's a bit different story. When I first came, I really want to fit in, have to be Canadian, don't want you to be, I wish I'd change your skin and color and so on. But over the years, things are different, have developed because the system has accepted, the country has changed with multiculturalism, and that we can be proud of our heritage and learn it. And many of us actually have taken that step in making advantage of it to show that we have something to contribute and people value that.
Gautam.
Most of the immigrants come and they settle down either in Toronto or Vancouver. And whereas in the earlier days, you could say that there is a mainstream and there is an ethnic community or a multicultural community.
Right.
Today, in areas like GTA or GBA, there is one common mainstream. That mainstream is changing. And there is a new mainstream that has got strings of multiculturalism in it. And
So the mainstream is the blend.
The mainstream is
that
the
it?
new blend. That's right. So the future for Canada is a new mainstream that will be there. And that's the way I see it happening.
How deep is that feeling, though, that sentiment, or that, the multicultural psyche? I wonder if either of you have felt a kind of resentment for being new immigrants, professionals, top of your game, when you're perhaps more successful than other people who were born here. Do you ever feel that sentiment?
I don't know if it's a feeling of resentment, because I definitely don't think it's a feeling of resentment, but I do feel that sometimes you definitely have to be on your A game all the time, and
More than other people?
sometimes, because I think it's very important that you're also setting as an example as well, right, for the people who are around you and the people who also want to strive for better and who want to be successful as well. So
I agree entirely with Susan, and but I'd add a point here. There are different times in economic life. I mean, right now we're going through a bad time. People are seeing their friends and relatives losing jobs, in fact, happening in their own homes. So when they see anybody who's coming in new and getting a job, there will be, it's human nature. So you need new ideas, and that's what people from other countries can help bring in. it's not necessarily better, it may be different. It's just a different way of doing things, and it might shake the system to be able to move out of the recession.
Well, just along those lines, what can we as a society do to make the whole immigration experience better, a more positive experience for newcomers? Just start.
I have quite a strong feeling here about this thing. I get this feeling that, or from what I see, I get this feeling that immigrants are treated with a common brush stroke. And especially for the educated professionals coming in, give them some fast tracks, get some meetings in with potential employers. Let them meet these kind of people, let them understand who they are. And you could find that we'll integrate far more faster in the Canadian society.
I think even beyond that, the government can do even promote that before even they come in internationally. As well, we have to establish for the cultural, for economic, other reasons, we have to do that anyway. So do ahead of time, so prepare the people, and then so that they can be fit in quite well.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see, I think probably more resources for the children, because I think as a whole we offer and provide a lot of services to the parents and to the adults and things like that. But I'm not sure what we do provide to this, children or teenagers coming into the country, given that they do have a lot to adjust to, and it can be quite an overwhelming experience coming to a new place. Yeah.
I think the government really have to set it clear, since we already established what Canada is. They set their point, multiculturalism is here to stay, but it's the evolving part, and everybody is part of that process. Exactly. And so there will be no buts and years, and that's how Canada. And also develop the services to fit in with the different way.
What goes through your mind on a day like today, Gautam?
When I think about it, I think beyond myself. I think about Canadian people and what they're doing for the country. And my heart actually goes out to the troops that we have in Afghanistan. This is a time where the country should stand up and be solid behind them, the ones who have come back and the ones who haven't. So I think that this is a day where people should remember the guys out there doing things for us.
For me, I think Canada Day is just, it's pretty reflective. You think about, the opportunities that being here has provided for you, and you sort of, I get a little excited about what's yet to come, and in a sense, I think how lucky we are to be here, and that's usually, the kind of things that I think about.
I think Canada Day is special for me because I've been successful. We actually have to be very thankful to Canada for giving me the opportunity and a way of role model for many other immigrants and for children from working from no language and to success in many communities as leaders, not just multicultural, but in the mainstream as well as successful doctor, give me education so I can serve back the community. And I want to share that with the people, give them the hope the same way in Canada we can do it. But of course, at the same time, we have to stay fast to make sure that will continue and it will be better, and we should be able to work together for a better Canada for our children as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Ken, Susan, Gautam. Happy Canada Day.
Thank you, Joan.